Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the international media. Welcome to Edmonton and welcome to Canada. My name is Andrew Erkamp, and I'm a member of the Papal Visit organizing team. And this is an opportunity to speak with the key players, Archbishop Smith, Father Cristino Bouvet, Marian Haggerty-France, and Steve Kwasny. And for those who would like to take interviews in French or Spanish, my colleague Erica Jacinto will be available after the news conference for that as well. And I'll introduce each of the players. There'll be an opportunity for them to make 2 to 3 minutes of comments. Then we'll take a few questions, and then afterwards there'll be an opportunity to speak to each of the players individually. So I'll start off by introducing Archbishop Richard Smith. He's the coordinator of the Papal Visit to Canada 2022. Marian Haggerty-France is the Alberta Sites coordinator for the Papal Visit. Father Cristino Bouvet is the coordinator of liturgy for the Papal Visit, and he's also a priest in the Diocese of Calgary. And Steve Kwasny is the Alberta Special Guests Lead, and he can answer questions regarding ticketing and registration and getting people to events. Just so that you know that Archbishop Smith and Father Cristino will be embedded with the papal team, so this will be an opportunity to speak with both of them prior to that happening. So without further ado, Your Grace, if you could make a couple of comments. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome. Well, we're at just about 0 hour. The Holy Father arrives tomorrow. We have been planning for this, as you know, for just a few short months. And one of the things that really has seized us from the outset is that a process that would normally take 18 to 2 years to get ready for, we've had to do this in the space of just a few months. And that's a challenge that has come to us directly from the Holy Father. Now, you recall that he met with a delegation of Indigenous peoples in Rome earlier this year. And just prior to that, in the fall, he had been indicating his desire to come to Canada. And the more that the Holy Father became aware of the needs of the Indigenous peoples, the more that he'd heard their stories and so on, the more convinced he was that he wanted to come to Canada, and he wanted this to be sooner rather than later. So he said, make this happen. And of course, we're happy to do that. It has been a challenge, but we've brought together an extraordinary, I'd have to say, extraordinary national team. And we've engaged with Indigenous partners and with various levels of government. And what I've seen through all of that, across the board, is people who are seized with the historic import of this particular moment. We have a sense across our country, I believe, that this will be a very important moment in the history of our country. And because that has been a shared conviction, what I have found is incredible energy around this. Yes, it's a challenge to get ready, but let's make this happen. This is going to be potentially very significant for our Indigenous peoples, first of all. That's the priority of the Holy Father. It's everyone's priority. But we believe also significant for our country more broadly, and perhaps also the world, because the Holy Father always brings with him international attention. So, just in the few minutes that remain, I would want to take advantage of this moment just to say thank you. Thank you to the team. Extraordinary efforts across the board, working 24/7 for the last number of months to bring us to this moment. To our Indigenous partners, to the various levels of government, deep gratitude for the collaboration and the cooperation as we work together to make this the moment that it really needs to be. So I'll stop there. Thanks.
Thank you, Your Grace. Father Cristino.
Tanse, thank you everyone for your interest in being here. It is hard to believe that this day has now finally come and that we will, in less than 24 hours, welcome our Holy Father here to Canadian soil. 20 years ago, precisely this week, we were also visited at that time by Pope John Paul II, whom we now call Saint John Paul II. And it was in that context, exactly 20 years ago, that his words rang true in my heart, where he encouraged us, those who were present with him at World Youth Day in Toronto, who were thinking of the priesthood of religious life. He said, "Do not be afraid to follow Christ on the royal road of the cross." And it was in hearing those words that I myself became convicted of a call to the priesthood and could never have imagined then what I would be doing now, 20 years later, Holy Father. But in this instance, I am not doing this only in service to the Holy Father and to the Church, but for my own people, this country, who I know have borne a wound, a cross that they have suffered with, in some cases for generations. And I know that a lot of great work has gone into helping to heal that wound over the course of many decades. And yet we know that there is still more work to be done. And what we hope and pray that we have managed to accomplish in these months of intense preparation in welcoming Pope Francis to Canada, that we will experience a new way of healing from this wound, that there will be a new opportunity to see this road that many have been walking, carrying a heavy cross, being made a little bit lighter with the help of our Holy Father and, of course, the help of the entire Church. I cannot help but think of my Kokum, who I have spoken of frequently, who 12 years in this city, in one of those residential schools, could have probably never imagined those many years later that her grandson would be involved in this work. And it is a direct legacy to her that I hope to be of service in this mission. So I would just like to extend my thanks to all who have helped to make this possible. And I would like to appeal to my Indigenous brothers and sisters across this country to see that not only do we know we are loved by our Creator, but that we are loved by the Church as well. And that I hope in these days we may all come to experience that in a more tangible way by the presence of our Holy Father among us on our lands. So I thank you, and I hope that you will join me in praying for these good intentions.
Thank you, Father. Marion?
It's pretty tough to follow Archbishop Smith and Father Cristino. But as Alberta Sites Coordinator, welcome, bienvenue, tata wow to Treaty 6 lands here in Alberta. As the Alberta Sites Coordinator, I need everyone to know how many people are working incredibly hard to ensure that our venues are in the best way they can be, to ensure that our pilgrims will be allowed to hear the words from the Holy Father safely, that they will arrive to the sites with dignity and on time. And to say safely with dignity on time may not mean a lot, but I'm telling you, the people that have ensured that park and rides, that buses have been secured, that accommodations are in place, to ensure the appropriate snacks are available for those who will need a little bit of nourishment as they wait for the Holy Father to come to the venues that we're preparing. There are literally hundreds of volunteers in this building right now preparing everything, and we've learned and listened along the way. It's been a lot to do in 4 short months to get everything ready, but we've pivoted, we've learned, we've tried to listen to communities, and I think we're embracing the creativity that we're also seeing from everywhere about how to get pilgrims safely to the venues for this incredible visit here in Alberta. I would also like to say that we know we're hoping to get everything roughly right versus precisely wrong. And I think there's a lot of people worrying, praying, and just ready to make the right decisions so that we can ensure these events are set up so that the people can watch, listen and feel words, hopefully, that will bring the healing and reconciliation to the people. And I think it is an incredible privilege and an honor for me to be working with each and every one of the communities. And I think what I wish for the world to know is how incredibly humble the communities are with welcoming the world to them. It's quite a big event for the people of Musqueam to be welcoming the Holy Father and the tens of thousands of people into their home. But right now, I can actually tell you that there's people at Our Lady of Seven Sorrows Church making sure the plants and the flowers look nice for the Holy Father to be in that church when he comes there. There's people that have been sweeping, there's people that have been paving, there's people that are making sure volunteers feel informed. And I feel incredibly proud of the work that's underway in these communities to welcome the world to their home. And I hope we've been there to support them, because this isn't something that we've done on our own. We've been walking with them to make sure we get it roughly right in these communities. And I'm really proud to see the engagement and the support that they are getting from many that wish to see this event go really well. I'll also just say that there's many people that are really working hard to make sure their communities get here. Just this morning, just now before I came in here, Bertha and Cecilia have arrived from the Northwest Territories in advance of the many delegates that are coming. There's 4 communities in total. There's going to be 8 drummers at Lac St. Anne. They're making sure they've got the right outfits today in Edmonton. There's going to be 248 cars, 7 buses, and imagine the effort that it's taken to get those 1,000 people to Lac St. Anne. And I just hope you hold them close to your heart, because they, just like us, are hoping that their pilgrims get to every event safely, with dignity, and on time. So we're really hoping that we get that right, and we're counting on the many who are also helping us do this, from the bus drivers to the park and ride supporters to the concierge at the desks in the hotels, that they can help our pilgrims get to the sites and to feel and hear the words from the Holy Father. So with thanks, really grateful and honored to be a part of this journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Steve?
Thanks, everybody. Just a couple of quick updates. So we're extraordinarily humbled that Commonwealth Stadium, the final public release of the remaining tickets has been sold out. They've all been registered and claimed. We do still have space at Clark Stadium. Those tickets are live on the Ticketmaster website. If there are folks that still wish to see the Heavenly Father, to see the Pope, he will be going through in the what's called the gyro. So it'll be great. It'll be a great spot. It's definitely something to check out if folks are still interested in attending. As it relates to Masqueam and Lac St. Anne, the message I really want to leave folks with today is that if there are folks that, Indigenous elders, survivors, residential school survivors, day school survivors, community members, intergenerational survivors, for whom coming to Masqueam or Lac St. Anne is an important part of their healing journey, we will get you there. If you can get to a park and ride, and the park and rides are available at papalvisit.ca, if you get to a park and ride, we will endeavor to do everything in our capacity to get you there safely, on time, and with dignity. So that's the message I'll leave. I know there's been lots of conversation about registration for Ticketmaster and the like. For those sites, it's really about trying to estimate and understand capacity to make sure we have the proper resources and supplies and logistics available on site. But our goal is to welcome those for whom this is an important part of their healing and reconciliation journey. And so I'll leave that there.
Thank you, Steve. We'll take a couple of questions, and if you could identify yourself, the media organization that you're with, and who you want the question addressed to. And there is an opportunity for follow-up, but we want to get as many questions in as possible.
Good morning, everybody. Rob McNally, CTV News in Edmonton here. Just wanted to know about the supports, specifically mental health supports for attendees, but also sort of anybody who may be dealing with any sort of physical elements. What kind of supports are there? It's a long day, warm temperatures, that sort of stuff. How are we sort of helping those?
That's a great question, and I think it's one we've paid a lot of attention to. So we have many partners working with us on that. So we've got Indigenous Services Canada, who are bringing many cultural and health supports, mental health supports to each of the sites. We have Alberta Health Services and the local teams providing health supports, physical supports. We've also made arrangements for everything from shade tents to additional bottles of water. It's going to be warm this weekend, and we've got people tracking the weather just to make sure we're looking after all of those details. We've also made snacks available just because, you know, many of our community may have issues with respect to diabetes. And that was one of the first things the elders in the community asked, that we ensure that we look after them and make sure their needs are in place. And I have a lot of confidence that the community members themselves are bringing support workers to ensure those elders and survivors and knowledge keepers can get there safely. So we have lots of supports in place, and lots of people ensuring that those supports are in place for whatever may come at them.
Do you want me just to add to that?
Sure.
And then just to add to that, at the park and ride sites, we've got accessible transportation available for folks that do arrive that way, to varying degrees, whether that's potential for kneeling buses or accessible transit to sites.
Okay. Another question over here.
Christian Con Global News. Is everything ready, and are there any concerns?
I'm still sleeping at night. And I actually think that's important. So I think we are as ready as we possibly can be for the Holy Father's arrival in about 22 hours and 30 minutes. So you know what? I think, again, we're going to try and get it roughly right versus precisely wrong. Are there a few things that on the moment we're going to go, oops, we should have thought of that? Probably, but this is where I have a whole bunch of confidence in the people that are at the sites that will make it right within the resources that we have. So I think I feel really good that it's ready to go.
Just a follow-up for Steve, if that's okay. Steve, you mentioned just if someone is a residential school survivor, they can get to the park and ride. How does that work with registration? Like, will there be a certain different process for those people that do show up that maybe haven't registered? Like, how's that work?
Yeah, all of our volunteers on site at the park and rides know to expect people to come. We've been preparing for that. Now, I ask that the folks, I'll put this another way. A lot of communities are doing live streamed events, and there's lots of different opportunities to engage with the papal visit in a variety of different ways. But the short answer to your question is, our volunteers are ready. We've got a process to make sure that folks can get there, that it's not overly onerous, and that people can do that in a dignified way.
So someone is wondering that they will be accepted if they
When in doubt, head to a park and ride, and we'll get you there. If you can register in advance, that helps us make sure we've got the right buses in the right place. But when in doubt, we'll endeavor to do everything we can to get you from there.
Okay. Thank you. Over here. Si je peux.
Deux questions. La première, il y a eu des questions qui sont posées sur le degré de participation de consultation des Premières Nations sur l'extérieur du parc et sur l'inclusion de cérémonies traditionnelles, d'actes traditionnels. Et la deuxième question, si vous pouviez répéter en français ce que vous avez dit au début sur l'énergie que vous avez sentie autour d'organisation.
Merci des questions. En ce qui concerne la première, je voudrais dire que dès le début de notre processus de planification, c'était très important pour nous de trouver des manières d'intégrer dans tout le processus, dans tout le programme du Saint-Père, des traditions, des expressions de la culture des peuples indigènes. Le Saint-Père, il est ici pour eux, pour célébrer avec eux ce qu'ils sont, pour célébrer avec eux leur tradition, leur culture, pour le faire grandir, augmenter aux yeux de tout le monde. Donc, c'était très important pour nous autres, dès le début, d'entrer en dialogue avec notre partenaire indigène pour savoir qui sont, quelles sont les manières de faire tout ce qui est nécessaire pour ça. Alors, au niveau local, premièrement, avec nos partenaires dans le lieu où le Saint-Père va se trouver. C'est leur propre terre, après tout, alors il faut consulter avec eux, premièrement, pour nous guider, pour nous conseiller. Et je suis content que, après avoir suivi ce que ils nous ont enseigné, on est prêt de faire montrer à tout le monde la beauté de la culture, de la tradition indigène ici, au Canada. En ce qui concerne la deuxième question, oui, beaucoup d'énergie autour de tout ça, qui anime tout ce qu'on fait pendant tout le processus de planification, parce qu'on se rend compte que on est sur le point d'aborder un moment d'une signification historique sans pareil, vraiment. Il sera un des moments les plus significatifs dans l'histoire de notre pays, j'en suis convaincu. Mais je pense que tout le monde partage ce sentiment de responsabilité d'accueillir le Saint-Père, de marcher avec lui en même temps qu'il marche avec les peuples indigènes, afin qu'on puisse trouver ce chemin très, très précieux, et ce chemin très nécessaire pour marcher ensemble envers un avenir d'espoir et de la paix.
Over here.
Hi, Olivia. Hi.
I'm just wondering, aside from the polity, many Indigenous peoples are looking for concrete action, such as perhaps the Pope could rescind the doctrine of discovery, overturn cultural belongings at the Vatican back to Indigenous communities. I'm wondering what the likelihood is that Pope Francis may do this when he comes to Canada, and whether you think he should do these things.
Well, first of all, the questions aren't new. Thanks for them. These are things that have been certainly occupying us for quite some time in dialogue with the Indigenous peoples. We know that these are significant issues for them, and we're quite happy to be working with them, walking together, to explore really what is behind the issue, what's at stake, and how do we discern together how this is going to unfold. Now, what the Pope will say on any of these particular issues, we don't know. We're waiting, like everybody else, to know what he'll say. But I would add that these are long-term questions that we want to work out together. The doctrine of discovery is something that I don't think is broadly understood across our country, so let's explore that together, make sure we understand all the facts correctly. I can say, certainly without any equivocation, that the concepts that are inherent in what has come to be called the doctrine of discovery are for the Church abhorrent. We are totally together with the Indigenous peoples in wanting to make clear that the Church upholds their rights, that the Church stands with them in their rights. And if there is any, and this is what we hear from the Indigenous peoples, if there's any lingering implications, any lingering influence of what the so-called doctrine of discovery in legal developments, legal decisions, we're quite happy to stand with them and clarify what the Church's position is, standing in solidarity with them in support of their rights. We did speak at the Vatican in the course of the delegation to Rome about the question of artifacts, and the Vatican there is very open to have dialogue with the Indigenous peoples, understand, because it's not always clear from available documentation, understand what the origin of a particular artifact might be. Well, if we can find out the origin and the originating community, let's enter into dialogue with them and see what might be the best way forward with respect to a particular item. What we want to apply to all of these questions, Olivia, is the very theme that we're unfolding here, walking together. So let us enter into those dialogues with the Indigenous peoples on these or other issues. We've got a lot of issues that we want to face together into the future. What are the various needs that our Indigenous communities have in their unique instances across the country? How do we walk together and work together to sort those out?
And if I may just supplement that a little bit, because I think the action hopefully is being demonstrated just even in the preparations for getting ready for the Holy Father to come. We've had orders of government that said, you know, we too are walking with the communities to ensure they're safe for all of these pilgrims to descend upon them. So I think there's been considerable investment in infrastructure and support, and I do believe very strongly that those are really tangible actions and evidence of the journey to go together. I think the other thing, and it's perhaps a bit more practical too, the good news about us preparing for the Holy Father's visit is we have engaged with communities that are very grateful we've done so. People that we've perhaps lost connection with. And on a recent town hall with a group of Métis settlements from across Alberta and the country, actually, they said, this has been really great. Thanks for sharing this information, but please, may this not be the last time we gather. Can we have another town hall afterwards? And I thought that was wonderful, and I actually think that's part of reconciliation in this ongoing healing. So, you know, we are as focused on what happens on July 31st as we are for the days between July 24th and 30th when the Holy Father is here. That, you know, if we can engage and continue these conversations, I hope that is a firm commitment to reconciliation, which is what the communities keep telling us about.
I think we have time for one more question. Over here.
For Reverend Christino, you talked about how important this visit is for you specifically. But I have a question, is there any concern that this trip will become more about celebrating the Pope, the Holy Father, rather than focusing in on the Indigenous issues he's here to address?
Thank you for that question. I certainly think that that's a possibility. People are excited to see the Pope, wherever the Pope goes in the world. And that's not up to him to make people have emotional reactions or not. And so I don't think anyone should be surprised to discover that many people are excited to see the Pope and to know that the Pope has come to visit their country. But what I can say with certainty is that this program, with a close conversation with all of our Indigenous partners, has been designed with the explicit intention of highlighting and remaining present to the needs and concerns that has inspired the Pope to come here in the first place. He probably likes Canada. He's not coming here because he likes Canada. He is coming here to address this specific and particular pastoral need as a pastor. That's what has brought him here. How other people react to that or respond to that is out of his control. But I know that we have done all that we can on our side to ensure that the people who need to be touched by this experience most have the opportunity to do so.
Thanks very much, everybody. We're going to split up into 4 areas of the building, and there will be an opportunity for individual interviews which each of the participants at that time. So thank you very much for attending.